And we are back for episode 2 of The Last of Us. Well, we being me, Gio Ramos here. My buddy and co-host Keith Barnes is running a little bit late, but I wanted to get this one started. And wow, just the whole mouth to mouth. If you've seen the latest episode of The Last of Us, I just finished it now and God, that was creepy, but that's how effective this latest episode was. Really diving more into the horror element of it, even if it's subtle. But yeah, while we wait for my buddy Keith Barnes, Gio Ramos here, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the episode. It's been a pretty eventful evening for me. Yeah. Go Niners. And I went from that to The Last of Us. So it's just been an eventful evening, a very positive evening at that. And I just want to say thank you, all of you, for tuning in and joining the review here. So let's start off with let's just go through the episode here. Okay, so starts off, they go back to the Indonesia outbreak, which was, I believe, referenced in the first episode. I think Joel heard it over the radio before the outbreak hit the States. And we meet this doctor scientist who gets called upon by the military to go and figure out what is happening here. I guess at factory, I believe they said. One individual bit about 3 or 4 people, and they wanted more answers about this infection. They're looking for a medicine. They're looking for a vaccine, and she does her autopsy, you could call it, which she's in there with the infected body. The body's dead, at least at the time of us watching it. We hope the body is dead. So she begins asking questions. Okay, is this bite mark from a human? Okay, that was very weird. And then she opens the mouth and then she starts seeing the little fungal hairs, whatever you want to call it, start to creep out. And she gets freaked out. And her conversation with the general who brought her in is pretty point blank. There is no vaccine, there is no cure. I've been studying this my entire life. And there's only one answer for this, and it's not the answer you want to hear, but I'm going to say it. You got a bomb. You got a bomb everywhere. We got to stop this infection. We got to stop this spread by any means necessary, okay? Even if people got to die, you got to do it. Cuz as she said in the episode, there's no cure, there's no vaccine, nothing. And I mean, talk about like going I wonder if this is going to happen in every episode of The Last of Us, where you get these uncomfortable cold openings here about this fungal infection. I mean, my God, 2 for 2 right there. You're just like, oh man, this is uncomfortable to watch, and it's just, yeah. I mean, it's just insane here. Couple of people here in the chat. Stardew, hello, go Niners. Blake Quick, how you doing? How about that episode right there? By the way, I watched the entire remastered The Last of Us 1, the first video game, all the way through. I'm hooked. So I made it through the first game entirely, and I'm thankful I did because it's great storytelling. But if you play the video game, you are watching this show and you're seeing differences. And I don't know about you, but for me, watching it, I'm very appreciative to see them not go, frame by frame, plot line by plot line story. They're taking liberties here, and for me, we're going to talk about one in particular that happens with Tess, her character, that I appreciated what they did, and I think it worked out better. But we'll get to that. So we go from the cold opening in Indonesia to um, Ellie waking up, right? And she finds herself being watched. And she's being watched by Joel and Tess. And they're trying to decide. Well, Joel's trying to decide what the hell do we do with this human being right here who's been bitten. It's going to happen. Joel is convinced it's going to happen. He's been fighting this for a long time now. Meanwhile, you have Tess who's saying no. It would have happened, a long time ago. She's different, but she's still not entirely convinced. She's still very much siding with Joel, but Joel's by far the one who is like, no, I'm not buying it at all. My co-host has joined me. I'm gonna bring him in right now, and we'll talk more about this. Mr. Keith Barnes. Keith, what up, man? How about that latest episode?
Yeah, jeez,
Dude,
very
the
intense.
the mouth to mouth, okay?
That
Like,
was awful,
dude just said,
awful.
"Oh, hey there, pretty lady. How
Right.
you doing?" Walked up all cool and whatnot, went in slow, and you're just like, ah,
Yeah,
ah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. That
Oh,
scene was well
and
done.
then like she's doing the Tom Holland Uncharted thing where the lighter can't, and then finally, okay, we jumped way ahead, but let's circle back real quick. How'd you feel
Yeah,
about the cold open? They went to Indonesia. Indonesia was mentioned in the first episode. How did all
yeah.
that play out for you?
Oh, yeah, really great, really great, really great. Um, the doctor there, or the doctor lady that they brought in,
Yeah.
just for her realization that just like, oh no, this is nothing we can do, nothing. Like
Yeah.
there's no hope. You can just see it in her face. It was great performance by that actress, and um, yeah, her only solution is like, you know what, we just need to bomb the city.
That's it.
That's it. But that sucks. And you kind of, obviously is what happens with probably that same conversation was happening all around the world. But I guess that's where that started. So
Yeah.
for the rest of the world to see that and go, yeah, you know what? Hate to say it, but that's all we can do. There's nothing we can do. There's no medicine. There's no vaccine. No nothing.
And that autopsy
Yeah,
moment
right.
where she's examining the body, opens the mouth, and I don't know, it brought me back to Blade 2 when they did the autopsy on the
Oh man,
vampire with
that's a good call.
yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah. And you see the fungal, and then like, oh yeah,
It
she
like
dropped it.
actually
She's like,
rising out.
oh, she's like, I've seen enough. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely a Blade. It brought me back to Blade 2, but
Sure.
yeah, really effective. And then I was just talking about, Ellie wakes up and she finds herself being watched.
They're watching her. Yeah.
But yeah, and they're just trying to decide, well, they've kind of made their mind, but they don't trust Ellie, right?
Excuse me. Yeah. Excuse me.
Yeah.
They're expecting, even though she told them, and it was right at the end of the last episode. I mean, she got bitten, what, like 3 weeks ago or a month ago or something?
Yeah.
But that's hard for them to believe. I guess they haven't seen that happen, right? They haven't seen anybody that's been, but they also hadn't seen anybody that was, I guess, immediately turned as well. So it was enough for them to say, well, okay. But even Joel even said it a few minutes later, like, well, yeah, maybe it didn't happen now, but it might happen later.
Yeah.
But so yeah, but you see a little glimpse of, well, okay, there is something to this girl, something. So maybe there's something to this mission, But I like what Tess said. Like, listen, whether it's true or not, I mean, the people we're taking her to believe it. So either way, we'll take her there and we get what we want. So we should keep her alive. So
well, yeah, because Joel, Ellie is like, no, we're gonna go to the Fireflies camp. They have doctors there. They're gonna find a cure and a vaccine. He's like, I've heard this before.
All right.
I've heard this so many times, which I find it interesting.
Yeah.
The fact that he still has, I I don't want to say a relationship with Marlene. I mean, they obviously are acquaintances, but
Sure.
like, how many more Ellies has he run into, in this
Yeah.
at this point,
Yeah.
Um and yeah, so they go on about their way, and they they go to a museum because they realize that, it's infected. The city's infected.
The
There's no
whole.
way to
Yeah.
get to it.
Yeah.
But before we get to the museum, there's this shot where they are looking over a ledge
Right.
and they see hordes of infected. And I thought it was interesting. Like, okay, so the hordes were reacting to the sunlight, right?
Right. As it was
Were
passing
they
over.
were they like scared, or like were they just like
That's what I was wondering. I felt
I was
like,
trying to figure that out. They were
yeah,
definitely having a reaction.
right to the light, and I wonder. I mean, they're out during the day, so it's not like you know, the sunlight. The sunlight clearly has some kind of effect on them that doesn't seem to be pleasant.
Right.
So yeah, that was interesting. Uh,
Hmm.
that was where. Well, before that though, real quick, they cut through that hotel.
Yeah.
Uh, which is
Oh,
pretty
right,
cool,
right, yeah, yeah, the
right?
hotel.
Which is straight that again, like so much. Obviously, it's a show based on a video game, but it was just cool watching that. It's like, oh yeah, this is in the game. They kind of climb through the wreckage of this hotel, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, that scene was well. That's when Ellie asks or says what they're all connected, right? And then Tess gives that kind of explanation how they're all connected, uh, like the fungus, like the way the fungus kind of it's like vines of a I don't know, just like there's this it's just like this interconnected
They
system that connects
they
all of them.
they have a word for it. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's the word for it. Let's see, Last of Us.
Yeah,
Let me see.
yeah,
Yeah,
just
God, there's a word that they mention it several
mm-hmm.
times, and but basically, like if you were to like step on the fungal, then they can find out where you are exactly,
Right,
and all of a sudden you're just getting like,
and they could be way down the
swarmed,
street somewhere, and it could a bunch
which
of them come get you.
happened later on in the episode, right? They
Yeah,
shoot those, yeah, the
right,
infected on the floor, yeah. So I thought that was pretty interesting to get more of an understanding about, they're not just mindless. Oh, you make a noise, they run and get you. No,
right,
like literally, all of a sudden, the environment around you becomes a landmine, which
right.
adds more tension to it, right? Yeah,
Exactly, exactly. Which just makes it even all the more difficult. Explains a lot of why this game is so
yeah.
hard to play. But so yeah, so not only you just have to avoid the people, you got to avoid all these, you know, gross fungal vines that are growing everywhere as well. Um, and they're like everywhere, you know. So
And the fact that,
ugh,
but before they go into the museum, Joel, he he decides to crush one of the vines, but it's like he says it's bone dry.
right,
So it's like I like that intelligent writing that they're doing
right,
with this show. They're adding layers to it and not
right.
just making a one-time reference. It plays a factor into the show later on.
Mm-hmm.
So they go
Yeah.
into the museum, and then that's when it really gets into like The Last of Us. Like you feel like you're in the video game, right? It's all
Yes.
shadowy inside the museum.
You got to be
It's
quiet.
dark. They're quiet. Joel says, "No, it's not a time to be quiet. It's a time for silence.
Silent. Mm-hmm.
Shut your ass." Like we're going to go through some and what happens?
I'm like watching this. And I'm like, yeah, immediately I'm thinking, take your shoes off. You know, because you don't be making footsteps. Like if we were in that situation, yes, I mean everything's already gross, so it doesn't even matter. But I'd be taking my shoes off and walking around in my socks, so I don't make any footsteps or step on something, which is
I
exactly
don't
what happened.
I wouldn't trust it because I don't want to step on fungal and
Sure,
like,
yeah, that's
then I'm
true.
screwed. I
Yeah,
want some protective footwear. Me, I'm going to the local military store, commissary, whatever, and I'm finding boots. Okay.
sure, 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 sure.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean that is one method right there. So they run into some infected inside the museum.
Hmm.
And I thought it was I thought it was pretty intense for myself because, they're all looking at each other and Joel's going like quiet, but it's like right through the glass and you could see it creeping up. And then it's like right beside them, the infected. And then, a
Right.
battle happens. And I noticed, how do you feel about this? Joel is not as he's some of the things I've expected him to do in the video game, like creep up and, you know, sleeper and choke it out and
Yeah.
whatnot. He doesn't do that.
Not quite there yet.
Like,
Yeah, well, it's hard.
yeah,
Well, you can't really fight them hand to hand
right.
necessarily. So like once they grab you, like at least in the games, like they grab you and you're dead. Like because you can't. There's no. You don't really have. You can't like hit them with some kind of melee weapon or something. Or
Well,
at
that's
least
what
can't.
Tess tried to do.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
An axe to the head, right, or something
Right.
like that, and it did not take down the infected. It
Right.
took Joel picking up his rifle and
Hmm.
putting two in the head, one in the chest.
They're very difficult to kill, and you see that in obviously in the game, but in real life, like or in the show here.
Yeah,
So it's not just well, let's just shoot him and keep running like typical like you see in other zombie media. Like, oh, you really gotta. It's best to honestly just avoid them. To be honest, it makes it even harder because because it'd be like everything else. If you just shoot them and run away, then that would you know. So it does add a layer of difficulty and intensity to.
and to your point about it being so difficult to take down the infected, to circle back a little bit, when they do enter the museum, Ellie comes across a corpse, and she's
Right.
like, "What the hell did
What
this?"
did that? Yeah.
Yeah, and even Joel's like, I'm not sure,
That's
like
something they haven't seen
this
that.
is something totally different, and that's when
Right.
he says it's time to not be quiet. It's time for silent.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
real quick
Exactly right.
before we,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So Blake, quick, thank you for stopping by, Blake.
Yeah, but
Did an amazing on the clickers look, and I love the
agree.
practical. Yes,
They're
straight out the
spot
video
on.
game.
They're
Hmm.
spot on. They're really good.
Yeah. Also love the reference to spores from Ellie when she was guessing what other types of infected they
Hmm.
are. Yeah. Hmm. Big time.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Oh yeah, well, real quick, Blake, you also mentioned
Oh,
say
go ahead.
shut Star but you mentioned this earlier. I think Joel saying I've heard about a cure before as reference to Tommy and him turning to fireflies because he believes they can find a cure. I think you're right. I think you're exactly right. Uh,
You think they'll dive into that a little bit? I mean, that could
if,
be a way to like, because if you were to go by the video game, you can get through that pretty quickly.
you're right.
And we've seen them take liberties, right? Like I don't remember the Indonesia flashback in the video game at all. Like,
No, yeah, even my daughter walked in and saw that and went, wait, what is this? And
yeah,
I tell her, oh no, they just flashed back to 20 years ago or whatever, telling the
yeah.
story. What I guess is an origin for this pandemic. But hey, John
John
Booth,
Booz, love this
yeah,
episode. I
yeah,
think, yeah, we definitely echo you, and so does a lot of Twitter right there. Like they're
mm-hmm.
doing a great job with this show so far. 2 episodes in, over 2 hours in,
Yeah,
about two and a half. Yeah. So they make it out of the museum, and they walk across this board. Tess is a little banged up. Uh, we don't know that she's infected yet, and we'll get to that. But they pulled a line from the video game, and I recognized it right away. Ellie's looking at the horizon right there, and she goes something like, "How about this view?" or
you
something
can't
like,
beat that
"You
view
can't
or
beat this
something like
view."
that.
I was
Yeah,
Leonardo DiCaprio. That's it right there. I recognized
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Oh man,
yeah.
like I don't know, like if you're
Well,
worried
even the
about,
shot, it was like, oh yeah, that is wow. I felt it was like
yeah,
this is the game. Like, that was really
uh-huh,
good. That's cool. So I like that when they
and
do little references, little shots like
yeah,
that. But there's another one later that we'll
absolutely.
talk about. But yeah,
So and this is coming from somebody who decided willingly to go and watch the video game cutscenes. Like you can get more out of it. Don't worry about spoilers or ruining the story or whatnot. Like for myself, I think if you're somebody who wants to know more about it and wants more context, and definitely check out the cutscenes on YouTube. It's really great job. John Booz here. This just came in. It was hella intense from the beginning with the experts suddenly knowing it was too late through the hiding from the clickers. Yeah, yeah. I mean, this episode, it had it. It touched
Yeah.
on everything. It was perfect. So they make their way to a building, right, where they're supposed to meet the fireflies. They're supposed to be there, right? And they go into the building and they realize no, nobody's here. In fact,
Where's
people
everyone? They're outside. Like,
people
where's
are
everybody?
dead.
Yeah.
And Joel's quick to realize no, somebody got infected. The sick started fighting the living,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody's alive.
Right.
And from that point, they're trying to decide what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Tess is very, very adamant about no, no, no. We got to keep going. Maybe there's a map. Maybe there's something. Joel's like, no,
It's over.
stop. This is it. It's
Yeah.
over. We're
Going
going
back.
home.
Yeah.
She says, it's not my home. And then Ellie is being the observant one, and she's like, you're infected,
Yeah.
aren't you? And she reveals, yep, she got infected. Joel is crushed. He's in disbelief.
And
He's lost.
she reveals the bite is like it's starting to. You can see it
Yeah,
turning. You know.
yeah. And then she points to Ellie and it's like, look, see that? Her bite, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Mine, something. This is real. And you owe it to me. And then there's a little hint
Well, because
in
Ellie
there
got
that
bitten again too. She got
yeah,
bitten
yeah,
again during that by
she got
one of
bit.
the
I mean,
clickers.
and by that point, Joelle is probably just like, I now I really don't trust you at all. Like you
Right.
just got bit again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, second time, third time's a charm. I don't know. But uh was there a little bit of a reference? Did Tess have feelings for Joelle? I mean, maybe I'm just at this point like it went way over my head, but
It seemed it
she
kind
said
of
something like I never asked you how to feel or something like that. Like
yeah. She
I
said I
don't
never
know.
asked you for anything, and I never asked you like to feel how I feel or whatever it was, something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it
So
was kind
it
of
seemed like it.
heartbreaking, It was
Right.
it's heartbreaking, cuz he's like one of the few people that he trusts at this
Mm-hmm.
point. Maybe the only person.
Yeah.
Um and then this is where it took a major shift because in a video game they're getting hunted down by the military, I believe. And
Yeah.
they decided to do something different where we talked about the fungal and how if you tamper with it or do anything, it can sense and kind of set off a beacon
Mm-hmm.
for the other infected. And that's exactly what happened.
Right.
She decides to sacrifice herself. Joelle grabs Ellie, runs out of there,
She's knocking
and then
over one bunch of barrels of
barrels of
gas
like
or
fuel, gas, yeah,
kerosene,
gasoline
whatever.
fuel,
Yeah.
yeah. And then the infected all come in, and then she's going into a corner trying to light it, doing the Tom Holland Uncharted thing, trying to
Yeah.
and then as we talked about earlier, one of the infected turns, slowly
Here's
walks
her
over.
clicking the yeah.
Oh
Well, because
shit.
we get to well, they mentioned earlier when they're in the museum, trying to avoid the clickers, as they
Yeah,
call them. They can't see, but they can hear.
they can hear.
So they use kind of like and they attack using essentially what I don't think they didn't say on here, but it's like echolocation essentially
Mhm.
to attack. So I'm assuming maybe one of them heard that one heard her kind of flicking the lighter there, and
And then it's just the most uncomfortable 20 seconds.
yeah,
Oh god.
yeah, that's
See it
awful.
like go oh,
Well, and then
but
you and
thank
then but like and she's struggling to light it, but
yeah,
also I think that the virus or the fungus is kind of taking over her too. So she's trying to
yeah.
hurry up because you can see her because she didn't fight the guy at all.
Uh-uh.
So you wonder if maybe it was like part of her brain was starting to turn.
Yeah.
Uh, but she
But
had
that's a
just
good
enough.
point because she
Right,
could have just easily shoved
right,
and bought herself a few more seconds.
right. She had
She was
just enough
just
awareness to keep trying to
hanging
flick
on
that
to the
lighter.
very last moment.
Right.
And then boom.
Yeah.
Talk about a sacrifice, man. Taking the last bit of you that you have left
Yeah.
And at the same time, while you know you're about to die, you feel yourself getting more and more take like literally physically in the worst way possible, mouth
Right.
to mouth. Ugh, God.
Yeah. Well done, though. Well
Yeah.
done.
Comment here from Blake.
Mhm.
Joel brought into the mission and was activated when Tess said something like, "We can't change the past,
Yep.
but we can try to save others."
Yep. Yeah. She told him,
Spot on.
save who you can, or something like that.
And Curtis right
Curtis.
here, she wanted to go out with a kiss.
Well, she probably would have rather had that from Joel, but
Yeah, she probably in her mind imagined it was Joel, you know. Uh, but
right.
yeah, that's just
She
uh,
helped him get away, though. So
yeah, true that. And now it's just Joel and Ellie,
mhm.
and they're gonna go and find
What,
Bill
Bill
and
and Frank?
Frank.
Hmm.
Yeah, which means we're probably getting Ron Swanson in the next episode, huh?
Yes. Right.
I'm excited for that, man. Um, any final thoughts on this episode too?
Excellent. Very good. Really good. Not a whole lot in terms of the progress, like them getting where they are.
Right.
This really was just them just crossing that part of that section of Boston, right? It really, you know, but you got a lot more explanation into what happens with these actual the threat of trying to deal with
Yeah.
these infected
We learn
people,
more about the threat.
right? So you really you can see going forward. Okay, this is what they have to deal with. Trying to move forward. Yep, Star Drew, exactly right. Yeah,
Boston and
so
Washington
Washington
D.C.
D.C. Yep.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, so I love the setup. Like I said, John Boo said it was super tense episode. Uh, and yeah, the setup for what's coming is well done, really good.
My final thought is I thought Ellie, I love the actress who's playing her, and
Yeah, she's great in this one.
they're getting a lot of the mannerisms. I thought the sarcasm slash insults were a bit too much. I just don't remember it being to that level
Sure.
in the video game. But I've only seen it once, and but yeah, other than that, everything else was great. I mean, you can call that a nitpick, but the sacrifice, the backstory, Indonesia to learning more about the infected, we got our action in there, we
Hmm.
got suspense, we got tragedy and horror and all that. I mean, it had a lot in there.
Yeah.
It was another great episode. Blake Bill will definitely be a fan favorite, especially when no game
Non.
players meet him. Non-game players, he says.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Ellie,
Agree.
Ellie wants that gun.
She wants
I
a
have
gun.
two,
Yeah.
and she may or may not get it.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's gonna do it, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 2, and we'll be back next Sunday after the San Francisco 49ers punch their ticket to the Super Bowl.
Advance to Super Bowl.
We'll see. We'll
Hopefully.
see. But yeah, that's gonna do it. Keith, thank you so much for joining me on this review.
Yes,
Make
sir.
sure you guys check out the Apocalypse Movies, our hangout show, Apocalypse Now. That's Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific time. Catch the guys talking movies and whatnot. And until next Sunday, you guys take care.
Thanks for watching.